We got a battle of the birds already this early in the season for Monday Night Football. We got Atlanta taking on Philly. And in this one, we got one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league against one of the apparently least mobile quarterbacks now. Dude can't even drop back. So hopefully Captain Kirk can get his Starship Enterprise going and the Falcons can stay alive in this one.
A.J. Brown's questionable. He popped up late on the injury report with a hammy injury. That's going to kind of determine a lot of, our strategy going into this one. It seems like he's trending towards he's not going to play. We're recording this on Sunday morning. As of right now, it doesn't look very good. Let's just get right into the show. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, Monday Night Football, Falcons and Eagles. Eagles are favored at home. Eagles coming off of a win. Jalen Hurts did not look great in that game, but they still got the win over the Packers in Brazil. Falcons lost to the Steelers, and boy, Kirk Cousins did not look good. He looked okay on the first drive, but like you were saying in the intro, I just don't know what to expect from him. Now, this is clearly, he's on a new team. He's coming off of the injury. It was his first game back, new offense. So there's going to be some rust, but that was more than rust. He couldn't step through his throws. He looks, every time I saw him throw the football and they cut to a replay of his face, he looked like he was grimacing every time he threw the ball. Now, I don't know if he's in pain. I don't know what's going on. You'd think he wouldn't be in any pain. Maybe his just confidence is just lacking at this point with the strength of that Achilles. But when it comes to this matchup, I'm not excited to play Kirk Cousins. I'm going to get to, a respectable amount. I don't think I'm going captain with him until I see him actually have a Kirk Cousins type game and see that this guy is back. I'm going to be very cautious with him. So let's just lead off with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I got Kirk Cousins in some season long too, because the guy's just guaranteed 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns, whatever. But watching some game film on him, or just I guess watching a game film, what the hell? His drop back is bad, man. Like it's just, I'm sure everyone's seen some of the TikTok viral videos, but I don't even think he needed to do that to see that he looked like shit. So, oh man, we didn't even get it through the first 5 minutes. All right, well, I cussed, guys. Sorry, I'll try and get better. Yeah, man, I just don't think this is the best spot for him, and all of a sudden that quarterback pick, draft pick, makes so much more sense in Atlanta.
I was going to say the same thing, man. Everybody in the world was absolutely ripping Atlanta, and it's like, look, we don't really know what's going on in that building, and right now, with a 6-year-old quarterback coming off of a major injury. It's amazing that they have him, because if he goes down at any point in this season, or if he's just playing, if he's washed and his career's over, I know they spent a lot of money on Kirk Cousins, but instead of just denying the front office just saying, we're going to ride with Kirk Cousins because it's going to make us look bad if we don't get a backup plan, they decided to get Penix. We'll see if at some point he plays this season, but I feel like Kirk Cousins, give him a few weeks, he probably will get back to at least an average Kirk Cousins, but beyond that, I don't know. Let's get into this matchup here. Let's look at the Vegas line. So Falcons are 6-point dogs going into Philadelphia, 47-point total here. Weather seems probably fine. There's maybe some chance of rain. It's not really going to affect anything for me, but as we get closer going into Monday afternoon, if we start to see a little rain, maybe that affects something. But as of right now, I think it's fine. What do we think about this total? You have the Falcons, who in theory, on paper, have a pretty high-powered offense if they can get it clicking. But we just didn't see that. They put up 10 points last week. A lot of that was Kirk Cousins, and I feel like Kirk Cousins lost them that game. They should have won it. They had plenty of opportunities. Bijan looked great. He had a lot of, this isn't a Bijan and Tyler Algier situation. This is Bijan. And on the other side, Saquon looked incredible. What do you have? 3 touchdowns in that game? And usually when we're doing Eagles Showdown slates, we're talking about, all right, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, some of these backups. I know Boston Scott's gone. This feels like Saquon's backfield. And I feel like Bijan, Saquon, Jalen Hurts, That's got to be a core. And depending on A.J. Brown and his situation, it looks like he'll probably be out, but who knows? You got to mix Devontae Smith in there as well, and we probably have some value to talk about. So based off of week one, it's always hard to judge week one. Some of these teams are going to change. They're going to get better. They're going to get worse. It feels like Philadelphia has this game that they can win it. The Eagles defense still doesn't look great. They got Vic Fangio though. They should improve. They got Kellen Moore on the offensive side. This team should improve now that they got some adults running that team. But I don't know how to treat this game as far as the Atlanta Falcons side. If Kirk Cousins is going to hold them back completely from getting massive stacks. So what are we thinking here, man, based off of week one?
Yeah, these Vegas lines are a little bit interesting. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty in just the status of Kirk Cousins, because I can't imagine how you're giving the Falcons. This has to be like what, 21 or I don't know, 20 implied points, pretty close, 17. I don't know how you're giving that many after watching the performance they just had. So maybe the Eagles defense is really just that much weaker than we thought. The Steelers are that much vaunted. But I don't know. I think it. I think it bodes well for guys like Bijan. Specifically Bijan. I just don't know if Pitts and Drake are going to be able to be consistently relied on with the Kirk Cousins angle. But to your point, right, all of this, everybody knows the same thing that we do. What if this is the week that maybe Kirk Cousins needed one game to break off the rust, right? Maybe he comes out and throws for 350 on Monday night. So did the shit was it James Cook last week? I'm just gonna be careful. At least James Cook was healthy though, so his situation was a little bit different. But overall, man, I think this is probably a game the Philadelphia Eagles dominate pretty well, and they can probably just keep the ball out of the Falcons' hands on offense.
Yeah, and Cousins got rushed quite a bit last week. He had some pressure. This Philadelphia defensive line, if they could put some pressure on Cousins, is going to cause a lot of chaos for them. But Bijan is a guy that I feel is probably the safest, considering he's going to get a lot of volume in the pass game, and they're going to hand the ball off to him a lot. Algier is a decent play, just as just as a guy who could fall into the end zone randomly. But I think this is clearly Bijan. Let's get into injuries here.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
So, the big news here is clearly A.J. Brown. Adam Schefter today came out with a report this morning that says A.J. Brown is legitimately, questionable for Monday. I didn't realize that questionable needed to be, there was tiers of questionable, but I guess there is here. What do we do? Because if A.J. Brown suits up, we have to worry about him being limited. It's a hamstring injury. So that's kind of important for a wide receiver. So what the hell do we do? If he's active, what do we do? Can we rely on him? I'm not comfortable with him being active, just going massive like I would, because he had a good week last week, and people might just click on him and his ownership might be high if he's active.
Yeah, so you're right. There are tiers to questionable in the NFL. The reason being is just remember they removed the doubtful tag. The NFL does not do a doubtful tag, so they're guys who aren't probable. But if you got a broken pinky, you're questionable, right? If you have a broken leg, you're still questionable until you're ruled out. So it's just something to keep in mind. But that said, I don't think this is a spot that
they removed. They removed doubtful. Why do I always see doubtful then?
NFL has doubtful, man. I think that's NBA. I'm pretty sure there's no doubtful in the NFL. I think they just do IR, whatever. Anyways, we'll look at that again. I'll follow up on that for sure. But look, AJ Brown probably isn't going to be used to the max. This is not a game. I mean, shit, dude. The Steelers beat them, or the Steelers were competitive in that game with Justin Fields, and I don't know, the ghost to George Pickens or vice versa. So, look, I don't know that they're going to need A.J. Brown in this game, whether or not he's a full go. Either way, this is a long way of saying I like Devontae Smith.
On the other side of the ball, not really any major injuries to talk about. Obviously, Rondale Moore in the preseason out. So now we have Ray McLeod getting more involved. He's priced pretty well in this one. He did get involved last week a little bit. Obviously, you have Kirk Cousins kind of holding all these pass catchers back until we know more about him. But just looking at, moving on past injuries here, let's look at some of Bijan's usage. 82% of the attempts, posting an 82% route participation with a 23% target share. I just kind of briefly watched the condensed version of that game last week with the Steelers and the Falcons, and he was always involved. It feels like because there's guys like Saquon and Jalen Hurts, and with the injury, you got Devontae Smith. It feels like Bijan's going to be high owned, but like I want to be above the field on him, because if this team is going to do anything offensively, he's probably going to be involved. All right, let's get into our breakdown here. Let's switch over to SaberSim, and we're going to go position by position. Break it down. All right, so we're starting with Jalen Hurts, quarterbacks, 10K, Kirk Cousins, 9K. Look, I think you got to get some exposure to Kirk Cousins, but his ownership coming in at around 30% in the flex, and let's see what it is in the captain spot, 8%. If he comes out and throws for 250 and 2 touchdowns and just miraculously looks better in this game, you're going to want to have some of him. So what do we do with Cousins? Because I think we know what to do with Jalen Hurts here. Last week, he didn't have the best game ever, and he hasn't been running the ball necessarily as much. And we didn't see 2 or 3 touchdown tush pushes out of him. But I think you got to consider him a captain. You got to play him in the flex. But Kirk Cousins here, what do we do? Like, are you getting with the field? Do you have any bold takes on, hey, you know what? I'm going to fade him until I see something different?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to limit my exposure to Kirk unless I see something, I don't know, that makes me a little bit more comfortable with his just footwork. And obviously, we'll be able to get some pregame reps in, or we'll be able to watch him get some pregame reps in. So my opinion on this could change as we get closer to lock, but 30% and then 6 to 8% in the captain. That seems a little bit high for a guy who can't stand on his back foot.
I'm not playing any.
They're running exclusively out of shotgun and pistol.
Yeah.
Like, they're not even opening it up for him. This isn't even the full version of the offense yet. So yeah. I don't think you're missing on anything out yet.
I'm not playing any Kirk Cousins in the captain spot. I'm not going to waste 5% of my lineups. I'm just not going to do it. And if he comes out and absolutely crushes, so be it. But I'm not going to risk him getting, 9 fantasy points and 5% of my lineups are just absolutely done for. I'm not going to risk it. With Jalen Hurts, obviously, I think he's for cash, for, small field single entries. He's the go-to, I feel like. And I don't think I'm going to get too crazy with fading him in the captain for GPPs, because there's some injury news here and there is some value. I think we could comfortably play him in the captain spot and still get a little bit different and not be massively duped. Let's go to running back. Let's go with Atlanta here. So Bijan's 10.4K, Tyler Allgeier's 3,600. I think you just play a crap load of Bijan. He's projecting well. He's going to get involved. Last week, Josh Jacobs didn't have the best game ever against Philadelphia for the Packers, but I think he gets involved in so many different ways. Everything's going to be funneled through him. I don't think you overlook this. He's projecting around 32% ownership, which seems absolutely insane in the flex. He'll probably be, you'd have to think he's going to be the second highest owned captain, maybe the third behind Saquon and Jalen. I'm going to embrace the hell out of him, get to a ton. Tyler Allgeier at 3,600, this isn't Arthur Smith. This isn't the past with the Falcons where, last year he'll randomly get a whole drive. I just don't see that happening. But, 3,600, if he falls in the end zone, if he gets a couple receptions, I think you can play with Allgeier, because I don't think his ownership is really going to be up there much above 10%. What are we doing with these Atlanta running backs? I don't think you overthink this. You just play Bijan, right?
Yeah, man. I think this kind of goes hand in hand with some of the issues that we've seen with Kirk. Bijan was expected to get a pretty high workload regardless coming into the season, even last year. But I think some of the question marks around Kirk, it's easier to just get some dumb passes off to your running back, man. And in our case, that's what we've been praying for Bijan Robinson since he came in the league. So those potential opportunities for more targets, I think, is just something that's just too hard to pass up on. I don't mind Tyler Algier. We do know that he may get some goal line work. It's likely that last week he didn't get as much run because of the way the game script panned out. But I do know that they're going to want to use him. 3,600, it's fine for 150 max, large field GPPs. I don't think you need him in like a single entry or 3 max, though. It's probably crazy.
I'd probably go with Ray McLeod over Algier, just in that price range if I'm looking for value on the Falcon side. But I'm doing probably 200 plus lineups, every 20 max, the mini max, all that stuff. I'm gonna get to some out Tyler Algier. Let's go to the other side. Like I said earlier in the show, this is Saquon Barkley's show here. I don't think we have to worry as much about Kenneth Gainwell coming in and vulturing 2 touchdowns or something. They brought him in. Saquon's pissed. He wants to prove something. I know he has his injury history, and at any given point, if he goes down this season, Kenneth Gainwell will get his run. But right now, as long as Saquon's healthy, I think they're going to feed him the ball. This offense feels like, they could use, basically they have like 3 or 4 dudes who could absolutely crush. So, Saquon may not be needed at a certain point, but I think he's just like Bijan. I think you got to get both of these guys. I'm going to have plenty of Saquon Bijan, whether it's in the captain spot with the other guy in the flex, mixed in with Hurts. This is almost the same exact thing we just said with the Falcons running backs here. I think it's Bijan. I think it's Saquon. And the biggest question here is what's going to be your Saquon captain exposure?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I might have around 10 to 15%. Like, what we saw last week from this team, it really looks like they plan on giving Saquon the ball. Maybe they're retiring the tush push along with Jason Kelsey, right? Like he was a big part of that. So you went and you got Saquon Barkley. You also paid Jalen Hurts all that money. I don't know you necessarily want him taking a red zone contact over and over again. So there's a real reality, and Saquon is there to be the full workhorse. And I don't want to spend too much time ranting about this, but I mean, this is the first time watching them last week is the first time I've seen Philly in 5 years not play the most sickening running back rotation I've ever seen. Right.
I know.
So I think that's worth considering. Now, that said, we'll save the other 2 for, I'll have one of them for my coked out play of the day.
All right. So let's go to wide receiver here. Let's go to the Eagles. All right, so we're kind of burying the lead. I know we're not talking about this a ton, but this is the biggest deal on the slate. A.J. Brown, questionable. It looks like, just based off of trends that we've seen with wide receivers being downgraded later in the week, especially a hamstring injury, it seems like he's probably not going to play. And if you're playing season-long home leagues or whatever, you're probably already panicking because this is a Monday night game and you're trying to figure out who the hell you're going to play instead of A.J. Brown. Do you bench him? Do you play somebody else? For DFS purposes, obviously, we're going to have, Monday at some point, we're probably going to hear something more. But if this is a true game time decision, I'm not building anything until I know whether or not A.J. Brown is in. But even if he is in, it feels like to me, I'm still going to be very, very cautious with my exposure to him. I know he's a grown-ass man, and if he's active, you'd think he's just going to go out there and play. I'm just nervous. If A.J. Brown is out, then clearly we have Devontae Smith at 8,800, who becomes probably one of the best plays in the slate. He becomes a great captain play at 8,800. You got guys like Jahan Dotson, who they traded for during the preseason. He was on the field a lot last week. He just, he was running wind sprints. He only got targeted once. But we know that this offense is 2 guys, 2 wide receivers, and Goddard. We know how this offense is. So Jahan Dotson is actually the A.J. Brown replacement. 4K, I mean, come on, man. We got to get to some of him. I don't think his ownership will be massive, but, it'll be respectable. I think it'll probably end up in the 30% range and maybe 3 or 4% at captain. What are we doing here with these guys? And then, if AJ Brown is out, Britton Covey and Johnny Wilson, all these guys basically become in play as value plays just to get maybe one reception in the end zone. What are we doing with AJ Brown? What is your theory going into this? And if he's active, what are you doing?
I think we need to go back to the to the ridiculous trade that Washington made within their division. Obviously, Philly knew that there was something potentially lingering with AJ Brown, or just some questions at their wide receiver depth, and they brought in a guy that they were comfortable with, Jahan Dotson. He's a good wide receiver. We've just been waiting for him to be with consistent quarterback play, right? He's been in Washington, so I like him at 4K. I think that he's a very, very interesting option. He probably should be one of the more popular plays on the slate if AJ Brown's out. And if AJ Brown's out, I think I might reasonably get 5 to 10% captain of Jahan Dotson. He's a really interesting captain play, especially with his upside. We've seen him break off 50, 60-yard touchdowns, so we know what he's capable of there. I'm assuming AJ Brown's not playing, and if he does, he's going to be a limited participant in the game. This is a team that really has Super Bowl aspirations. You can't lose your multi-million-dollar number one wide receiver in week 2, right? So
Yeah.
I do think that if he does play, he's eased into it. They're not going to risk his health too long term. Outside of that, Devontae Smith's probably one of my favorite GPP plays of the day, right? Like, everyone's obviously going to play Bijan, Saquon, and Jalen. And then your job is to figure out who that next fourth guy is. And Devontae Smith he's prime for a big day.
Yeah, I think Devontae Smith.
I don't care about the other guys.
Devontae Smith at captain, I think it's just the best route to take with that salary. He still has the upside. If he's the number one guy, it's going to be tough for them to stop him no matter what. And seeing him as the number one dude, we've seen how many showdown slates do we have to make the decision between AJ Brown and Devontae Smith? And it's always hard to make that correct decision. We usually lean towards AJ Brown, but if Devontae Smith is the guy, I think you just got to load up on him, man. You just got to load up on him. All right, let's go to the other side here, Atlanta. So look, all these guys to me are big question marks, not because of their skill, but just because of Kirk Cousins and his accuracy, his confidence with his deep ball, his confidence with any of his passes. It just did not look like it was there. Drake London 7,800, Darnell Mooney's 5,400, Ray McLeod's 3K. Look, we saw Jaden Reed absolutely crush the Eagles in the slot last week, and if we think that a guy like Ray McLeod can come even somewhat close to that usage, man, 3K. It's a great price for him. I don't know what his ownership's going to come in at, but it feels like he's a pretty good captain option for salary savers, and then just jam dudes into the flex. Pretty much everybody, which we'll definitely build a lineup with him at the end of this year. 3K. Darnell Mooney is a deep threat guy. He was semi-involved. It's just, what is Kirk Cousins going to do? Drake London, he's a number one type dude. I figured he was going to have a breakout year this year after being massively limited with Arthur Smith last year. What are we doing with all these dudes? We got Chris Blair, a little UFL action here at $200. I will play a couple lineups with him just in case, but this feels like I need to, besides Ray McLeod because of the value, this feels like I'm going to be very cautious with what I do with these pass catchers here.
Yeah, I probably won't have more than one of these guys in a lineup, just given what limitations we've seen with Kirk. Outside of that, though, Drake London is priced very nicely that if he does have one of his games, that he probably would be an excellent captain option. Right? If he goes out and has 80 to 100 yards, 5 receptions, and a touchdown or two, or 7,800, that's a pretty intriguing price for me. Outside of that, man, I think Darnell Mooney had a touchdown last week, but I don't know how much, or at least a big play. I don't know how much more we're going to rely on that. And Ray, yeah, I think he's fine for value. Chris Blair, $200, of course. There's a guy that's going to get routes on the field at $200. I think you're fine playing him just because the upside is so significant. Outside of that, man, I think you max at one of these guys, and then even then take it a little bit sparingly.
Kyle Pitts was actually the only guy who scored a touchdown for them last week. Let's move on to tight end here. So Pitts, 6,800. Man, I feel like this guy should be the best tight end in the league. Every year it seems to be, he's not reaching his full potential. He's $6,800, dude. There's just like, I get that we have the Kirk Cousins issue, and I don't know how successful this pass game is going to be. But at that price, man, throwing him at captain, I don't know that I'm going to get to a ton in the flex, but he's projecting for like 20% ownership right now in the flex and probably like less than 3% in the captain. I think you're going to have to sprinkle some of him in if you're, 150 max. And if you're just doing a handful of lineups, I don't know that he's necessary. $6,800. You got some of these other scrub guys, Charlie Warner, Ross Dwelly. I feel like all these guys play for the 49ers at some point. They're cheap, but I don't think I need to go down that low. What are we doing with Kyle Pitts, man? This is always a toss-up.
Yeah, if you're not comfortable with getting a bunch of Kirk Cousins, I think an easy way to get the Atlanta offense, go Pitts captain plus Bijan, or London captain plus Bijan. Gives you a little bit of flexibility price wise, but and you're comfortable overall. To your point, you're right. It was Kyle Pitts who had the touchdown last week, which I'm pretty sure like broke the fantasy world in half. But it was good to see him get involved. I think that he's an excellent tight end, and we know that he's athletic as hell. So 6,800 is a good price tag before he does start creeping back up when this offense starts clicking.
Let's go to the other side here. Dallas Goedert, 5,800. I feel like I never know how to treat Goddard. Like, I always want to play some Goddard. He's coming in around 25% ownership. I will be with that, maybe a little bit above it. But what are we doing with Goddard? Because it's not sexy. But if AJ Brown is out, maybe they game plan to use Goddard a little bit more and less Jahan Dotson, more Goddard. He's clearly the number 2 guy, pass catching wise for this team. If AJ Brown is out, I just don't know how much I love him. I think I'm just going to kind of be with the field. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting take because it is possible. AJ Brown's a big dude, right? It is possible Jahan Dotson gets some of the more speed, deeper routes, and they split some of the more physical possession routes for Dallas Goedert. But I guess I'm not going to try and catch a falling knife, right? Dallas Goedert just. Let's put it this way: the Eagles seem to have a shiny new toy in Saquon Barkley, and it really feels like they're trying to make that a focal point of their entire offense. Maybe they get him involved in some play actions, some dump off in the red zone, but I just think they're going to continue to feed. What Philly did was you could get random passes from the pass game to some of these random receivers, right? Because they had that running back by committee rotation. But now all of that's being funneled that they really are just one of the more predictable offenses. It's going AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, or Saquon now.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of just got to see how Goddard gets worked in there before we start getting too crazy with him.
The thing that worries me about Goddard is, I think it's possible he catches a touchdown. I think it's always possible he gets targeted multiple times in the red zone, and maybe he ends up with a 2-touchdown game. That's going to keep me from fading him in any sense, just because of the AJ Brown question mark. But comment down below what you guys think about Goddard, because I'm kind of undecided. And if I have a nice portfolio of exposures that I like, and I like my builds, and he comes in under the field, I'm not going to force him in. That's just, and if he has a good game and Dallas Goedert beats me, I'll just move on to Thursday Night Football. All right, let's go to defenses and kickers here. So, look, I think Atlanta's defense can be pretty decent this year. They brought in Judon. They made some signings before the season here. They went up against the Steelers. They looked pretty good against the Steelers, to be honest. They didn't give up any touchdowns. But it's the Steelers. It's Justin Fields. We don't quite know what to think of that yet. Eagles defense 4,400. Falcons defense 3,400. Look, Jalen Hurts did he have 2 picks last week and a fumble? I think he had 3 turnovers or two turnovers. He's looking a little rusty as well to start the year. Falcons defense at 3,400. If they can put some pressure on Hurts, maybe it's worth sprinkling in a lineup or two with them. Eagles defense, maybe. I think you kind of just go with the field here. If you have some bold takes where you want to get a handful of lineups with an under hitting and maybe some turnovers, maybe some kickers. Young Hoku, 5K. Jake Elliott, 4,800. I should just have a button where we replay this segment, because this feels like just stay with the field. maybe get bold in a couple of lineups with some interesting builds with the defenses. I don't think I'm going double defense or any defense at captain, but maybe one or two slip through the cracks and make it into my lineups. What are we doing here?
Yeah, no double defense, no double kicker, but I think all of these guys are in play. Uh, Eagles lost their starting center. I don't know if Jalen Hurts has really played with anyone else since he's been in the league, so that does matter. And the only way an offensive line can get some consistency is by actually playing games together. So this is game two. We'll see how they do, but I think Falcons could end up with some takeaways and sacks. Eagles, again, if you think Captain Kirk is dead, then yeah, absolutely, he could get sacked a bunch. So Eagles can probably get there too.
I think the primetime Kirk has kind of gone away as far as him playing massively poorly in primetime, but it doesn't excite me when I see Kirk playing on a solo game. So yeah, you're right. Eagles defense might be interesting. Vic Fangio, he provides some interesting defense, some interesting looks. I'm a lot more excited to play Eagles defense this year than I would last year. That's for sure. All right, let's get to our captain option here.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
We're crowning their ass on DraftKings. I'm going Saquon captain. I toyed with Bijan here. I honestly think flip a coin. Like I was close, but I Devontae Smith here feels like the best play if AJ Brown's out with his price and his upside. Anything else to add here, and any other guys that you're prioritizing? I think Jalen Hurts is a great captain play as well. I will definitely have plenty of him because we've seen his rushing upside. We've seen the tush push. We talked about it earlier. Like, do they want to continue to do that kind of stuff on the goal line, or do they just feed Saquon? These guys to me are the top end, along with Hurts and Bijan. Anything else to add?
No, man. Probably lean Philly just because of how much consolidated their concert or their target share is. It's going to one of these top dudes, and then I think Bijan's probably next.
All right, so our next segment here.
No other than Steve Kyle. I'm like, come on, bro.
So I'm not going to say the name of this segment because I think YouTube doesn't like that for their advertisers. But this is basically the play where we shouldn't play them, but we do. So where are you going here, man?
So first of all, we'll call it Steve Kime's overstimulated play of the day. There we go. That's a little bit more fun. I'm going with Will Shipley or Kenny G. I do think one of those guys ends up in the touchdown or in the end zone. I think it probably ends up being Kenny G, but Will Shipley, I like his name, so I'm going to go ahead and add him in. I'm going to go with both those guys.
That is a pretty cool name. I'm probably leaning towards a Ray McLeod or Jahan Dotson. I know that their ownership will probably be a little bit higher, so it's not too bold of a take. Maybe a Chris Blair at 200, maybe getting 5% of him or something. But I think because of the value, and I think because of the injury status here that we're waiting on, I don't know that any play is massively stupid if you're 150 maxing. All right, let's get into lineups here. Let's build a couple lineups together. Let me switch over to that. So throw us a subscribe. We appreciate you guys. We hit 2,000 subscribers. Let's get this video to 50 likes. We appreciate it. Hit that like button. So I built this one earlier, just hand built this one, just to kind of show what's possible with Devontae Smith at captain. We got Hurts, Barkley, Bijan Robinson in the flex. We got Ray McLeod as value. And then you're punting here at the end. Now you can pull Ray McLeod out, you can pull Bijan, you can pull Barkley, switch that out, and have a little bit better of a build. But for GPPs, this feels like, I'll have quite a few combinations of this, and hope that one of these low-owned dudes in the last spot as a punt does something. You want to build a single entry with Jalen Hurts captain? I mean, look, Jalen Hurts is the fourth highest priced guy on the slate. This feels like we're not going to get that many slates where a guy like Jalen Hurts is not the highest price guy, or at least the top two price guys. So getting him at captain for cash or small field single entries is probably the way to go. And I'm going to have plenty of him for captain for tournaments. So what's our thought here? If we're building a single entry for the $100 single entry where there's only a couple hundred people in this contest, or under 1,000. What are we doing? What are we doing here? I think we got to plug in Saquon and Bijan, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And this is probably got to get Devontae Smith in here. But
Yeah, can we do that?
I don't think so. So, I mean, you're double punting here for sure. I mean, you get Ray McCloud, Ray McCloud maybe, or Jahan Dotson, but you can't get both. So you're looking at punting with Britton Covey, Charlie Warner. I don't think I want to do that. So I think we got to decide almost between, if A.J. Brown's out, I like Devontae Smith. Do we have to decide between Barkley and Robinson here?
Okay, hear me out. Pull out Ray real quick. What happens if you put in your boy Chris Blay? $200. What does that give
And
you?
just
4K?
just take the zero. That gets you 5K. Yeah. So kicker, or Elliott.
Yeah. I don't know if I hate that. Like, we'll build another, see if we can get a little bit more comfortable. But I mean, that gives you Elliott, both kickers. You can even go down to Jahan Dotson if you felt so inclined.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to get a catch.
Still probably GPP.
He's not going to get a catch. You're just taking the zero and hoping for the high floor. I don't hate it. I don't know that I'm going to do it, but it's an interesting build. But this is the problem is, I just want Hurts, Barkley, and Robinson in my lineups, and then if Smith is getting that run as the number one dude with AJ Brown out, you're going to want him too. It just feels tough. So let's build a single entry with Devontae Smith at captain. And we kind of saw the builds here. If we go Bijan, we go Saquon, we go Jalen Hurts. Now you're going down to Ray McCloud, and you're punting with Kenneth Gainwell. You're punting with Greg Calculator, Britton Covey. Maybe he sees some more run with AJ Brown out. I still don't like it. So we're gonna basically, to me, we got to make a decision between Barkley or Robinson, or maybe we just fade Hurts in one of these. But I just don't love it. So I don't know quite which direction I'm gonna go. Do you have any advice for? on how to build these single entries? I think I'm going to let Sabersim make the tough decisions for me for single entries.
So what if we do this? What if we put Jalen Smith back at captain? We leave Devontae Smith out and we just capture his offense from there.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, okay. Saquon, Bijan. Leave
throw in
Devontae out.
Throw in Pitts.
Kyle Pitts.
And then what does that put us at? It's a little bit
puts
better.
us at 36. So
you want to put in your boy Ray?
Yeah, you can go Dotson. You can go Ray. Let's put Dotson in since he's more expensive, and you can get Ray. It's not bad.
Still a lot without a lot of pass catchers, but I mean, I think that's fine.
No, you're right. Yeah, we got Saquon and Dotson together. You got Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Ray McCloud without the quarterback. Yeah, it's a little bit of an issue. What if we tried to get Kirk Cousins in here?
Yeah, I think we can try and get Cousins in there.
I know I keep going to Ray McCloud. I'm not gonna have I'm not gonna have 80% Ray McCloud, but these builds just seem to help throwing him in. So we got Cousins, Robinson, Ray, Hurts at captain, Saquon. You're going down to Britton Covey. There's just not a lot of options. Is there anybody else captain wise for a single entry that we'd want to target? I know we haven't built with Saquon or Bijan. I think those are both good plays for single entry potentially, but probably more so Saquon. But anybody else you'd want to play at captain here?
If AJ Brown's out, I'll do a Jahan Dotson captain single entry.
Let's do it. Let's build with it.
Yeah.
Dotson, Barkley, Robinson, Hurts. I mean, look at this, dude. You can go down to. Do we want to put Devontae Smith in here with him? Probably.
Yeah, we can actually. And
that leaves you 4,200.
4,200.
So can't quite get the kickers, but you can go down to Ray McCloud. That's kind of interesting, man. That might be the way to go for both GPP and single entry. Get some more Jahan Dotson. That's pretty interesting. You can do whatever the hell you want. Now remember, Even if Jahan Dotson's 2 or 3% owned the captain in a big GPP, this is what everybody's going to do here. This lineup is duped massively. Unless you just completely go down and get freaking Ross Dwelly or something and leave 3,600 on the table. This is a duped lineup. 2% of 200,000 entries is still a lot of dupes. All right.
Yep.
So let's build a GPP lineup and then we'll get the hell out of here. We'll make this a pretty short show. Let's go with Bijan. Let's go Bijan and Barkley. Let's build one of each. So GPP wise, what's our game script here? Maybe Bijan gets a rushing touchdown, gets 4 or 5 receptions. Kirk Cousins doesn't have a massive game, and Bijan just kind of takes over, and maybe Philly wins this in a close game. You want to do like a 2-4 here or something, like maybe Bijan and Pitts, or Bijan and Ray, or London even. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I like Bijan and Pitts, and then kind of just doing as many Philly players as we can.
Jalen, Saquon. Go down to Jahan Dotson here.
Do it. That leaves us what?
Leaves us Ray.
I don't hate that lineup.
It's not bad. We don't have Kirk Cousins in this lineup, and you have, potentially 3 pass catchers, but you're capturing all that volume for the run game with Bijan at captain. It's an interesting build. It is. I think there's just a lot of options when it comes to GPPs. If you're willing to leave some money on the table, or if you're willing to just punt in one spot with some of these random dudes, I think it's very possible. So let's go to Barkley captain. What's the game script here? You want to fade Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, let's fade Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think we probably need to play Cousins at that point, unless we think it's just a defensive struggle. But let's do one with Cousins just because we haven't. So Saquon,
Cousins, Bijan.
Yeah, for sure.
Fade Jalen. Do you want to get Devontae Smith in this?
Yeah, do it.
All right, so we're still going low here. I feel like McLeod, Ray McLeod, Jahan Dotson, they seem to be fitting into all these builds as kind of a second to last piece. But what does that get us? That gets us 2,900. If you go Ray McLeod here, to get you Kenneth Gainwell, get you Calculator, Shipley, Burton Covey. I mean, it's GPPs. I could live with that. What if we faded Devontae Smith here as well?
Yeah, let's put in Kyle Pitts or something.
Pitts, 3,900. You want to do a 2-4 with this? Barkley and somebody else from the Eagles, Jahan Dotson?
Yeah,
Goddard. I know we haven't messed with Goddard. We could go Goddard here as well, but with the $1,800 cheaper to get Dotson, that might be the way to go. And then of course you got Algier, Falcons defense, Ray McLeod, Kenneth Gainwell, whatever the hell you want. Just to be consistent with this show, let's put in Ray McLeod. So just by seeing this, do you think, is there any reason to avoid this Dotson McLeod combo, in your opinion? I don't think there is, but is the field just going to go massively towards this because it's so easy to build with them both?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Dotson should garner some ownership. I'm not sure where people will be on Ray McLeod, but I don't know, man. Like, unless other value opens up, it seems like that's pretty much what we're stuck with. The one thing to keep in mind is like 3K, you do need a certain amount of points, like 7-8 points. $200, 0 isn't going to kill you. So I unfortunately am going to have a little bit more of these random dudes like Chris Bear than I probably thought I was going to coming into the show.
So what'd you learn, man? Like, how do you think this game's going to end up? Going into Monday night, how are you building in SaberSim? What jumps out to you as any rules that you want to set? Or are you going to let SaberSim cook, close your eyes, and shut the laptop kind of a thing?
No, I will set some rules. I try and keep the max of one kicker in and the max of one defense in for pretty much anything over like a 42-point total, just to make sure I don't get absolutely annihilated. But outside of that, man, I don't know. I think this is an interesting slate to probably make sure that your salary is capped out. Your top end of the salary is capped out probably around 47,000, 48,000. Anybody who's maxing out their salary is going to be duplicated on a slate like this, especially if AJ Brown is out. You did a good example showing the Jahan Dotson lineup. The reason you're playing him at 4K is so you can jam in all those good plays. So you need to be willing to do something weird and just see him as an 8,800 guy who just needs to go get his thing, right? And that's a way you can kind of visualize how you're building those lineups. Other than that, man, just stay close to the news. Hop in the Discord. We'll let you know what's going on with actives, inactives, and if any of our strategies change.
I feel like if you wanted to go massively against the field and build Falcons onslaughts, 5-1s, 4-2s with a Falcon and the captain, I think it's an interesting way to get different. I don't know that I have the balls to go massive with that. I just don't believe in the Falcons yet. I think eventually Kirk Cousins will probably get back to, median Kirk Cousins. But after seeing him week 1, that's tough. That's tough to do that right off the bat. I don't know how long it's going to take. We could see Kirk Cousins come out and throw 2 picks and, get 8 fantasy points in this game. And that's what kind of worries me, seeing their offense from last week. All right, guys, join that Discord. Throw us a like on the way out. We will see you guys for Thursday Night Football.